at the end, what was important is we punched it in the end zone for everybody. So it's really exciting. It was a little. Even on my side, everyone was asking you, when are you going to, what have you heard? Obviously I'm checking social every day too. And you do feel a little bit of that pressure, but at the end, it was great to get it done.
What's going on, everyone? Jon Alba here from the Takedown on SI, and I'm really excited to be joined by TNA President Carlos Silva on the heels of the announcement of this TNA media rights deal with AMC. The deal is signed, sealed, and delivered. Everyone's been asking me for months, Carlos, is this deal happening? When's it going to happen? Navigating that process for you, what'd you learn along the way?
Look, I mean, we talked early on, John. I mean, we've been chatting about this since the spring and the summer, and we've been trying to do our best to give everyone updates. And look, media rights deals are hard. They just are. I mean, and I think they're hard. They've gotten harder even over the last few years with all the moving parts and all the changes in the landscape. But like any of them, you kind of keep your nose to the grindstone, and you just kind of every day try to move it forward. Been through it a bunch of times. This one was really no different. We had a lot of great help from our colleagues at CAA who helped us with it. The AMC guys were very transparent along the way. It's just, they're big companies too, and sometimes things take time. But at the end, what was important is we punched it in the end zone for everybody. So it's really exciting. It was a little. Even on my side, everyone was asking you, when are you going to, what have you heard? Obviously I'm checking social every day too. And you do feel a little bit of that pressure, but at the end, it was great to get it done. And we're super excited about the launch on January 15th.
Now, the AMC Network's majority owned by the Dolan family. Those in New York City know the Dolans, Madison Square Garden, the Knicks, the Rangers. Why do you think they wanted to get in the business of pro wrestling, and what do you think the product offered them in terms of something that they'd actually want to present on their network?
From the very first call, they were very progressive in thinking about sort of where AMC goes next. And I think being in the live sports and entertainment category was, putting their big toe into it and doing it. Maybe wrestling aligns a little bit more with the AMC character development storyline series than just pure live sports. And so I tell you, from the very first call, we had a good feeling with each other. And then it was just taking that time and sort of marching through each of the weeks and months to work through what was important to everybody to try and get to a deal. But I think for them, it's a way to begin that weekly sports and entertainment live piece that is so important in the cable landscape and certainly the media landscape, I think, to protect your assets.
Around when in the process did AMC jump into it? Because for the first several months of it, naturally, you were going to get the WWE affiliated networks that were going to come up in the conversations, the CWs, the A&Es. And AMC, there was a lot of chatter that started to pick up around Bound for Glory, which was when you had initially said that you were hoping to have a deal done by. So I'm curious where that timeline lined up.
Well, what's funny about it is AMC was involved all along from the very beginning. And what was so interesting is there was so much chatter about all the networks that were interested in working with us. And AMC was always not in the mix until really till you started, asking about it, and a few people maybe over the last sort of 30, 60 days, really.
Yeah.
And so, it's funny how the wrestling world and the social media space works, but there was, sort of, the easier ones to think about were some of the places where TNA was showing up. And we were obviously showing up a lot on the CW with our great partnership with NXT. So, maybe that was the easy one to lean into, but AMC was in the mix the whole way. There was, there was a number of networks in the mix, throughout the process, but AMC was there with us the whole way, which was great.
Do you have an approximation on viewership in terms of how many households AMC is currently in? Because there's been a lot of estimates that are a little outdated, 60 million as of 2023. Do you have any idea of where they currently sit for distribution?
I don't, and it would probably be best to ask them that. I mean, I have the sort of the same numbers that we all Google out,
Sure.
John, and know where they're at. I mean, it look, the good news is they're on basic cable. They're on the first page of your program guide. They're next to every place that you hang out. I've been in this space a long time, and it's been said for years and years that most people have between 5 and 7 sort of baseline networks that they watch day in and day out. And if you sort of think for yourself, you probably say, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I do have like sort of 5 to 7. AMC is one of those 5 to 7 in everyone's mix. And so I just think it's going to be game changing for TNA, the audience, and the growth.
Do you guys have flexibility within its sister stations? Like AMC Network is the flagship of the AMC networks. So would you guys be able to collaborate with WeTV or any of the other Sundance, IFC, anything of that nature?
All of them, BBC America, another one
Yeah.
that's in the mix. All of them will have the opportunity if we want to do things, or even if we wanted to do a roadblock, or we talked about all of these things. The deal is for AMC's primary network, but obviously the deal is with the family, and the partnership is with AMC as a whole. So the way that we look at AMC, obviously AMC Plus will also be showing simulcasting the Thursday Night Impact as well. And but all of the other networks will have the opportunity to do different things, really based on what AMC tells us is best to grow the audience. So we'll wait and work through it once we get to launch on January 15th.
I understand that terms of deals, they're very fluid a lot of times, but you were very open in the negotiation process about seeking 7 to 10 million annually for these media rights. Where did you land, even if you can provide an approximation within the parameters of these specific terms?
Yeah, I can't speak to exact numbers, no big surprise. But what I can tell you is it's sort of like buying a car. The car dealership's gonna get a good deal for them, but you want to know that you got a good deal for yourself. And I think both the reason that we got the deal done is because I think AMC was very happy with the terms and TNA was happy with the terms. And it's going to give us the kind of flexibility to continue to grow the product, and then in turn be able to reinvest in the product so that we can make it better.
What kind of investments do you see you guys making into it?
I think across the board, I mean, you got to look at arenas, you have to look at talent, you have to look at production elements, all of the pieces that go into building the promotion. And then the biggest one is also how we do marketing together and how we invest in marketing to continue to build the product. Uh, it's a crowded space out there. The good news is everybody has laid out sort of the places that they own from Sunday to Saturday every week long. We're going to own Thursday nights on AMC. I know that they've got a lot of interest already from a lot of the folks that they work with, and in supporting us and marketing it and coming in around companies that want to be a part of the night. So those will all be the things that we work on over the next 45 days. And then we'll be working on it every single week, week to week. We're going to be tracking on how we do and trying to grow the audience for our partners at AMC.
Do you anticipate being live weekly, or is there any strategy on that front?
No, there's definitely a strategy there. I think the strategy is we've kind of decided not to boil the ocean. Things are going well. We want to really get to this launch. The obviously the show on January 15th is live. It'll be live from 9 to 11 Eastern time on AMC. And then we'll look at going live more in the first 6 months, but there still will be some taped opportunities around taking advantage of being in an arena and getting a couple shows in, and keeping operational costs in line for the first 6 months. And then I think as we get into the second 6 months of the deal, we'll reevaluate how we can increase the live. Do we go into a studio kind of a setting and an arena that's set up for us? But those are things that we'll look at once we get through these first 6 months.
Sure, I do want to talk about what's ahead in those next 6 months in just a moment here, but I do want to ask you, WWE was a hot name yesterday as this was announced with Sean Ross Sapp reporting that they were involved with part of the negotiations with you guys assisting in them. There was the report about the out clause, the early termination clause that you have commented since publicly on. Was WWE involved in any way with these negotiations? They have a pre-established relationship with the Dolans through Madison Square Garden. So I'd love to hear if there was any involvement on that behalf.
No, we did all the negotiations ourselves with me leading the charge on the TNA side and then CAA leading the charge as our representative and our partner on the deal. Look, WWE and NXT are very important partners to us, so we kept them in the loop. They knew what was coming. They knew about the deal before you knew about the deal. But no, they've got their own deals. They're very busy with their deals, so they let us go and cut a deal and get on a major network. And I think they're happy for us, and we were happy with the way it went.
So the language of the report was there was a 60-day termination clause. So even though right now that things might be fine and saying that they could pull out within 60 days, is there any anticipation on your end that WWE would exercise such a clause if such a clause exists, or how long do you see this relationship continuing?
Yeah, I don't even understand the wrestling community sometimes when things like this come out. I
A
got to
lot
tell
of
you,
us
John,
don't,
it's just like
Carlos.
it's I mean, we've all been in sports and entertainment our whole careers. I mean, we're coming out with like great news that TNA is on a major network. Everyone's been worried and upset and thinking that we need this. We get it done, and then the first report that comes out is that the partner that has been so great and that we've worked so well with over these last 9 months, it's just really, frankly, it's a bunch of silliness. We have a great relationship. I mean, Leon was on the CW last night in an 8 man, and it's all going to continue. There's a lot of things in the works. Working at the top levels, with both, Nick and Paul, and then, working with NXT with Sean and Johnny, and JB and so many others. Everyone's been great. So no, I have zero buzz or inkling around anything other than it being going great, and we're going to continue to keep the partnership going strong.
Got a couple more minutes with Carlos Silva here. So you announced the 15th is going to be the live debut on AMC. That's going to be in the Dallas Fort Worth area. Then you guys are going to New Mexico. And it was funny because in the press release, I noticed you guys mentioned Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Do you anticipate there to be a lot of tie-ins with some of these IPs with AMC and featuring them in any way on your events?
Look, I think it's been. I mean, we've seen it so many times at Super Bowls, at major events. Whether Fox has the rights or CBS has the rights, the way that they mix in their show, their talent into those big events. You're seeing it on the CW when you have an NASCAR drivers showing up at NXT events. It's a big part of what we spoke about with AMC is all of the great shows, all of the great characters they've got, and how wrestling provides a platform really, at a much higher level than live sports can. And so it will be a big piece of how we dive into doing this together and how we continue to grow the audience. We're excited about it. I mean, I don't know about you, but all of those shows have been a big part of my entertainment over the last 10 and 15 years. And so we're going to try and work with them and keep growing it and do that crossover that is so powerful for the audience.
I think that was one of the really interesting parts of this AMC deal is like, AMC, that is a legacy station with some of the greatest shows in American history, truthfully, especially in the last 20 years. So I did think it was a really interesting partnership that you guys are forging with them. And, I'm sure that the fan response has been very positive to getting this group of talent out in front of a new audience. I'll wrap with this, Carlos. Over the years, and this is long before you were in TNA, TNA has come close to the brink of death like 5 or 6 different times. And here you are now in a situation where You guys have been able to leverage some popularity over the last year into a lengthy TV deal here on a solid flagship network. What do you think this does for the future of TNA and preserving its longevity?
Uh, Look, I mean, I think it's the next big step on, look, TNA's been around a long time. I mean, the best part about yesterday were all the notes that I got from wrestlers and people that have worked here saying congratulations. Got a nice text from Jeff Jarrett, got a nice tweet from Dixie Carter, got a nice DM from Scott Demore. And the list goes on and on. Everyone's saying congratulations because everyone has worked hard, as you said, to make TNA live. It's hard to make a sports and entertainment property be around for 23 plus years. It's hard. I've been doing it a long time. It's not easy. So the great news is that we had a great foundation to build off of. And I think we took advantage of that over the last year. And now we've got a great partner to continue into 2026 with. So, it's going to be a big part of the next phase of TNA. Hopefully, 20 years from now, we'll be talking about how the deal with AMC was the catalyst to continue making TNA great.
He is Carlos Silva, the president of TNA. They have just signed a new multi-year partnership deal with AMC Networks. Congratulations, Carlos. I know it's been a long journey for you over the course of the past year, and we appreciate your time here on the Takedown SI.
Good to see you, John.